بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's an honor to be here again. Sometimes I feel like a stranger amongst Muslims these days, because I feel around me there are so many long faces, agitated people, pessimists, as though a few political events somehow endangered the great triumphant bulldozer that is the history of this ummah. As a historian, I think I can take a longer view. I see many grounds for not only hope but real optimism. A crowd such as this, unimaginable when I first became Muslim, is a sign of that. The quality, the caliber, the seriousness of so many of your young people is another. The enthusiasm with which so many of them roll up their sleeves in order to deal with the challenges of the times, and particularly those who have devoted their lives, abandoned sometimes quite considerable financial prospects in order to seek sacred knowledge, either in the institutions of this country and abroad, and are now returning in ever increasing numbers in order to shine a torch around in this benighted, spiritually speaking, part of the world, and to remind people of that thing which is really the simplest of all things to understand, as it is the easiest of all things to say, which is La ilaha illallah. That thing without which nothing else can really go right. The simple source of meaning that gives meaning to the whole of the complex jigsaw puzzle of life. And I see those young people coming back, and I see not only the joy of Iman on their faces, but also the wisdom of Allah's law in their hearts. We live, of course, in times that are challenging. And if we take a moment to think about it, this is hardly surprising. To think that Islam could enter upon the modern world with its well-established traditions of secularity, materialism, liberal capitalism, and every possible ism as long as it's not theism, belief in God, and to assume that there will be no collision or impact would be an idle supposition. Of course, sparks are flying. Sometimes those sparks are the wrong sparks and they hurt people. But nonetheless, all around I see the signs of a new spring, of a regrowth, of a genuine rather than superficial tawbah. We know that one of the greatest achievements of the Chosen One, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, amongst his endless list of great achievements, was that he took a people sunk in tribalism and took them into a new concept of humanity where tribal affiliation, while known, had no particular implications. Given the millennial history of Arabia, that's a pretty extraordinary accomplishment. And we know also that the doctrine of Tawheed, which unites people as one ummah under the one true God, and which finds abhorrent any kind of tribal factionalism, is damaged if we try to turn Islam into a tribe. And sometimes we do that. We assume that there are the Muslims and there are others. Whereas historically, I think the great ulama were more comfortable with the idea that there is truth and there is falsehood, and there is goodness and there is wickedness, there is light and there is darkness, but that the two are never in the mess that is this material world completely and tidily differentiated. If we don't think tribally, if we don't think in the Jahili idea of them and us, but rather in terms of true and false, and the gradation of rightness that we see in different sorts of people, then we start to acquire something of the prophetic gift of the discernment of spirits. So that the believer who has transcended this reduction of Islam to simply a tribe amongst other national and religious tribes, the believer who sees what matters, which is commitment to La ilaha illallah, is the one who will not be a thoughtless zealot for his own community and a vile fanatic towards others. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us with a type of human intuition, a fitrah, that allows us automatically, if it's activated and not suffocated by rage and fear, that can perceive the presence of light and truth and goodness right on the other side of religious boundaries. And in this country, where we're a pretty small, though growing minority, we have historically unusual opportunities for activating that ability. Unless we are particularly blinkered or stupid or isolated, we've all had the experience of seeing in people of our own community wickedness, stupidness, short-sightedness, and in people of other communities a genuine presence of light and hope and a desire to serve others. Sometimes when this is stated, we retreat, if we are fearful, into the old tribal language that assumes that goodness is all on our side and there is only wickedness without. But most of us who've lived in this culture and other cultures, engaged with people, befriended people, know that the situation is a good deal more complex. So it seems to me that we have two great options as we consider our prospects and our really unguessable future in this new field of da'wah for Islam. We can huddle up like penguins in a blizzard, or we can curl up in a prickly ball like a frightened hedgehog and curse and damn everything that is around us because it happens in most cases not to know La ilaha illallah. Or we can start to activate the prophetic capacity which says that laysu sawa, they are not the same. They are amongst the Ahl al-Kitab, upright people. And after all, the Quran itself addresses them, and if they were completely sunk in darkness, they would have no way of recognizing its truth. But this way of acknowledging that goodness is not exactly coterminous with the boundaries of the Ummah of Islam, which is certainly the prophetic view, requires a certain amount of confidence and courage. The tribal mentality is the primitive mentality, the one that really doesn't need to think, because the tribalist is simply interested in your point of origin, your ethnicity, the kind of name you have. This is the BNP possibility, which is a possibility in religion as it is in national self-definition. And that's easy, and you can do it very well and be very stupid. And you can do it particularly well if you're frightened and insecure, and you're worried about the attrition of the new generation, or about immigration, or about any number of things that the world might be throwing at you. But the more difficult path is the path which transcends tribalism, which says, laysu sawa, they're not all the same. The one that says, according to a hadith, الناس معادن كمعادن الذهب والفضة فخيارهم في الجاهلية خيارهم في الإسلام إذا فقهوا. People are mines like mines